Right, we are up to PowerPoint number 4 in the DNA proteins topic, and this is on protein structure. It's only really a brief one. So we've talked about the fact that proteins are polypeptides, and they're made up of amino acids which are linked together by these bonds called peptide bonds. Now, the function of a protein is directly linked to the structure because we've already seen the interactions between proteins of different shapes enabling recognition of things in regards to ribosomes binding to the mRNA, in regards to the DNA replication we saw and the starting of transcription. So it's these sequences of proteins that link to how the protein is actually going to function, which is really important. Now, and like I've said just before, hinted at some examples, the function of a protein nearly always involves binding to another molecule in a complementary manner. So that means having a complementary shape, not the same shape, okay, but the opposite shape, so the two things fit together, a bit like a lock and a key. Okay, if I had two things if I had the keys having the same shape, there'd be two identical keys, but the lock and the key are complementary. And that is why they can fit together so nicely. Now the structure, the sequence of an amino acid determines the way it can actually fold, because it's not just existing as a long chain, it folds up upon itself. And that shape determines how it will function, and we'll see that very well with enzymes when we talk about them next. Because these proteins carry out the function by recognizing and binding to another specific molecule and then causing changes. Now these proteins, they're globular, so they got some spherical stuff going on, and have a unique shape that's complementary to a particular molecule they need to bind to. And they've all got these following levels of organization, these 4 levels of organization: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure. We're going to go through each of them specifically now. So the primary structure, that is determined by the unique sequence of the amino acids. So if I swapped a glycine for an arginine, I've gone and changed the primary structure. If I even just switched the phenylalanine for a glycine, and the glycine goes over here, I've changed the primary structure. So primary structure of an amino acid is determined by the amino acid sequence. So the primary structure of a protein is determined by the amino acid sequence. Now, secondary structures. These are where we start to get some interactions between some of the amino acids. And these are caused by hydrogen bonds, which are weak bonds generally compared to what we'll see in a little bit. And they can cause some coiling or folding that contributes to the shape of the proteins. So there's 2 types of secondary structures. There's an alpha helix, which we can see here, and they're caused by these hydrogen bonds between, say, this lysine and that alanine, and this leucine and that lysine, causing the chain to come together a little bit and spiral around. There is also, I'll just go back, another type of secondary structure called a beta-pleated sheet, and we saw them with the alternative splicing PowerPoint. We saw some of those kind of folded, slightly bent protein chains. Now the tertiary structure, and this is the proper 3D shape of a folded polypeptide. It actually forms spontaneously, so these proteins are self-folding because of the attraction and repulsion between amino acids, and they're usually caused by the strong bonds that form between chains. So with the secondary structure, we had weak hydrogen bonds helping form some of these structures, but with the tertiary structure, we've got strong bonds. So you've got things like disulfide bonds, which the chemist will learn about, that are being held together. And that's what enables it to form this structure and hold together. Then quaternary structure, so quaternary referring to the 4th level of structure of the protein. This is if we have got a protein that is made up of more than one polypeptide chain. So for instance here we can see we've got one polypeptide chain in blue that has folded into its tertiary structure, and then we've got 2 other, what are these, yellowy goldy coloured polypeptide chains that are folded into their tertiary structure, and when they bond to each other to form the final protein, that is them forming their quaternary structure. So an example of this is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is your blood protein which transports oxygen around, and it has 4 individual polypeptide chains which form the hemoglobin protein, each having their own tertiary structure, and then when they bond together they form the quaternary structure. Okay, so that is the 4 levels. So really good questions, really good flashcards that you can create in that situation about what that particular level of structure is determined by. So I've got a question here. That angiotensin 2 is a protein produced by healthy human beings. It binds to receptors in blood vessels and causes the blood vessels to constrict, resulting in a rise in blood pressure. Then we've got a drug here that is used to reduce high blood pressure by blocking the angiotensin 2 receptors in the walls of the blood vessels. The information above suggests that this molecule, then we've got to think, okay, what's going on here? So J has a shape very similar to that of the angiotensin 2 receptor. Now we've got to go back and have a look at this question, don't we? So what this receptor, this angiotensin 2 receptor does is angiotensin 2 is a protein which comes along and binds to the receptor. And when it binds to the receptor because the receptor has the complementary shape. Therefore, if we want to block this receptor from working, we want to design a molecule that is going to bind to the receptor as well, and therefore have the same shape as the angiotensin 2 protein. So that's how a lot of drugs work. They match the shape of a particular protein, and therefore it will bind to another protein or receptor instead of the protein that we're interested in and block the action of it. So for this drug to work, it needs to have the same shape as the angiotensin 2 protein and not the angiotensin 2 receptor, because then it wouldn't bind to it. So J is not correct, because if the receptor is the same shape as the drug, they won't bind to each other. They need to have the complementary shape. Okay, now denaturing we haven't quite talked about yet. I've got some of these questions in the wrong order, but denaturing is when the protein loses its structure, and that's caused by excessive heat or pH. So that's not what a drug is going to do. So K is incorrect. L, have a shape very similar to that of the angiotensin 2 molecules. Now that's a possibility, because if the drug and the angiotensin 2 molecule have a similar shape, then they both could bind to the angiotensin 2 receptor. So L looks all right at the moment. And then M, have a shape complementary to that of the angiotensin 2 molecules. Now that would mean that the drug is binding to the angiotensin 2 because they have a complementary shape. And it would mean that the drug has the same shape as the receptor, which is the reason that we ruled out J. So our answer here has to be L. Right, question 4. The human body's immune system can normally distinguish body's own cells from other cells because of protein markers called MHC, essentially. Okay, you might have learned about this last year in the immune system. And they're on the surface of the cells. Now, each person's cells have got their own unique MHC molecule, and sometimes your body can recognize them, your own cells, as being foreign and attacks them. So it actually thinks that your cells need to be destroyed. The attack on a person's own cells could be due to, now J, a change in the shape of the MHC gene. Well, we talk about the shape of proteins. We don't talk about the shape of genes. So J wouldn't be our answer. K, an increase in the number of MHC protein markers on the surface of the cells. Well, increasing the number of the protein that the body may or may not recognize is not going to change whether it does or doesn't recognize it. So K is not correct. L, a change in the nucleotide sequence of the MHC genes. Now, if we change the nucleotide sequence, that could change the amino acid sequence, which could change the protein structure. Sorry about the bell there. And therefore, if we change the shape of the protein, that could mean that our body doesn't recognize it anymore, and it could cause it to be destroyed. So L could be our answer, but we'll just check M. An increase in temperature that causes the MHC protein markers to denature. Well, if we've got an increase in temperature in our body that causes our proteins to denature and stop working, I'm going to be dead. I'm not going to be worried about an autoimmune disease. I'm going to be dead. So M is not our answer here. Our answer is L. Okay? Because that causes a change in the base sequence, which changes the amino acid sequence, which changes the MHC gene protein structure, and therefore it won't be recognized as you anymore. It'll be recognized as foreign, and you will get destroyed. Okay, Estrogens are hormones that are involved in the reproductive cycle. They're able to bind to receptor proteins on the surface of cell membranes. State the subunits that make up an estrogen receptor protein. Well, what's the subunits of a protein or a polypeptide? It's an amino acid. So B, explain why the order of these subunits is critical to the function of the estrogen receptor protein. So I need to make 2 points here. So my first point would be that the amino acid sequence is what determines the primary structure of the protein. Now, the structure of the protein is what determines its folding and its shape, and therefore its function. So if its shape, if its structure, if the primary structure is altered, it's going to cause the function of the folded protein to change shape, and therefore its function will change. So what it's asking you to do is show that you understand that the order of the subunits determines the structure, and that structure is linked to function, and that can change the function of the protein. Explain the role of tRNA in ensuring the correct order of the subunits in estrogen receptor proteins. So this is a question where they love to link a few topics together. They're trying to link translation in with your knowledge of protein structure. So I would firstly point out that the tRNA molecule is responsible for bringing in the correct amino acid based on the codon sequence on the mRNA molecule. And it is then going to ensure that those subunits are linked in the correct order, because those tRNA molecules come in and bind to the mRNA molecule in the correct order. And that's going to ensure that we have the amino acids all lined up correctly. So that is the end of protein structure. Next, we are going to be moving on to enzymes.